What is up, everybody? It is Wednesday. It's DFS Dudes back for the deep dive. Pretty good night last night. Some things played out exactly like anticipated. Rashawn Holmes got ruled out. Marvin Bagley got ruled out. Giles is in a really good spot. Ariza in a really good spot. Giles almost hits the 6x that we need. Ariza crush value again. And Ariza, I mean, look, Ariza's a good basketball player. Championship pedigree. The guy is really one of those players that has so much upside because he can score and knock the three down, and he just fills the stat sheet up. He's a gritty player. He plays defense. He gets you steals. He can block shots. He gets you rebounds. So Ariza's a guy that I'll continue to watch. It's a guy that everybody should continue to watch and play. If the price gets above, 5,500 in that range right there, then he becomes kind of unplayable. But as long as he's going to stay in the, high threes to low fours, he can crush value, and he's going to get minutes. I mean, him and Luke Walton were teammates for one. So, I mean, Walton knows Ariza and what Ariza can do really well. Tonight's slate, 9 games on this slate, and a really big tournament on FanDuel, $150 entry with $100K going to first place. I like this tournament. I think I have 10 entries in it already. There's only 2,600 people in it. This is a good tournament. And if you're playing like the $65 3 entry max, or you're playing at that level, putting a line in this is not the same as, from a leverage standpoint, it's not the same as like a $7 where you're putting 2 lineups in a $7 and there's a shit ton of people that are max entering it. It's a little bit different. It's a bigger tournament, yes. It's a higher entry fee, yes. There's not a lot of people that are going to max enter this. You're going to be out leveraged by Chipotle, but no matter what tournament you play in, you're probably going to be out leveraged by Chipotle. It's just the way it is. Funny thing, man. There's a funny thing in daily fantasy. This ex-bachelorette chick and her husband are being investigated by DK for collusion for winning the millie on DK. And from what I understand, what got them busted was going on social media and saying that, they both put 150 lineups in. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. DK needs to just pay them. Or start busting everybody, because you can go on a Roto Grinders forum and look at things that other players have said. There's 2 guys that come to mind that have something that they call their own software that they've built that's similar to what Fantasy Labs offers, and they're both max entering everything. And I doubt that they have. I believe I even read in a forum where one of these 2 guys said that they make sure they don't have the same lineups. If that's your definition of collusion, here's the hypocrisy in the whole thing, okay? I've been told, and I'm not going to say by who or which site, but I've been told by my VIP rep. I don't even know if I should say that. Maybe I should say a VIP rep. I've been told by a VIP rep for a site that there's nothing that they can do about it. And this is this is in reference to sharing lineups. There's nothing that they can do about it. And the example that I was given, I would probably have to get the email to quote exactly. But the example I was given was, if 2 people are roommates and they live in the same house and one person enters contest and the other one doesn't, but he gives them money for it, they can't do anything about that. But you're going to bust these 2. Just either pay the money or come up with some specific rules and start cracking down on everybody who you think is colluding, or you think, look, the same 2 guys keep winning tournaments, okay? And if you watch what they do, there's clearly some overlap with what they're doing, and they don't have identical lineups. I've never seen the 2 of them at the top of a leaderboard splitting a pot. So That's kind of my rant for the day. Last night, my main lineup 316.6. Lowry with 44.8. De'Aaron Fox 42.8. Booker 50.3. Delegis Alexander 31.8. LeBron James 49.5. Maybe a little bit of luck there with AD unfortunately getting injured. But my point was that I liked LeBron in these higher spread, higher over-under games because of his ability to fill up the stat sheet. 31 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, a block shot. Kind of what I was talking about. Ariza 31.4. Duambier for the Pistons 25.4. Giles 19.6. And DeAndre Jordan 21. Every single one of these guys I talked about in depth on the deep dive. Yesterday, I even talked about pairing Duambier and Giles together and paying down at that power forward spot and being different. Really just needed Giles to crush the spot he was in, to be honest with you. A little underwhelming there. Delegis Alexander just didn't fill the stat sheet up. 22, 2, and 4. Had 2 steals, but he had 4 turnovers. And Chris Paul, who leads the league in clutch points. If you don't know what that stat is, clutch points are points scored in the fourth quarter of a game in the last 6 minutes of the game when you are either up by 5 points or down by 5 points. Chris Paul had 20 of his 28 points last night in the fourth quarter overtime and dominated the ball. Just the way it goes. Doesn't mean the play was bad. The play was good. He had 31.8. Just wasn't good enough to take anything down. Good enough to cash. So that was yesterday. Today we start off with Washington at Orlando, and this is going to be a pretty chalky spot for the center position with Vucevic. I think Vucevic in cash is going to be fairly popular. I don't mind the play. He's 8.8. When you take a look at Vucevic, though, does he have the ability to get us 54? I think he does. I mean, Vucevic has had a couple of those games this year. He missed a ton of games. I think he missed 10 games. But prior to missing that, against Washington on November 17th, he had 30 points, 17 rebounds, 6 assists, and a block shot for 59.4. This is like a fringe play for me because it's a tournament play for sure on the surface. By popularity tonight, it'll probably be cash game safe. But when we're talking about tournaments and it being a tournament play, it's an upside tournament play. It's an upper echelon tournament play because he's 8.8. You need him to get you 54 plus. And I think there's some other spots where at the center position, the likelihood for value to be crushed, maybe a little bit better. But Vucevic, this is where it's going to kind of hinge tonight. 62.9 against Portland on December 20th. 50.6 against Milwaukee on December 28th. And then he's mixed in a bunch of 40-point games. Minutes are strong. He's playing 30 to 32 minutes. And Washington they don't have a center for one. They can't rebound for two. And they don't have anybody on their team that's a big that can defend right now. And number 4, I guess their roster is shattered with injuries. The Washington side of things, I don't think you could play Mahamini today at 4.9. I've always liked to target centers against Vucevic because he plays so far away from the basket. But at 4.9, I mean, can he crush that? Can he get you 30? He can. I just don't like the spot for him at 4.9. It doesn't feel like it's a good value at 4.9. Ish Smith and Isaiah Thomas and Jordan McRae. This team is kind of like the Golden State Warriors right now. They've got a bunch of wing players. They don't have very many bigs. Bertans is out. Hashimura is out. Mahamini is back, but Thomas Bryant's out. Moritz Wagner still out. Pasankis is playing. He's 4.1. Pasankis is like a sneaky little play. I don't know if any of you know who he is. He's a center. He plays between 17 and 22 minutes, and on any given night can get you between 17 points and 10 rebounds and nothing and nothing. December 26th against Detroit, he played 23 minutes at 17 and 6 at 4 points. If he was minimum value on this slate with 9 games, I may sneak him into one lineup. I don't think you need to go there today. But as a whole, I'm not big on this game in this spot. It's a 9-game slate. I think there's some other really good spots to look at. But Vucevic should be fairly owned. The price increase for Mahamini, price increase for McCray. He's now at 6.1 on FanDuel. Bradley Beal, if he plays at 7.9, is the guy that I would target. If we get word that he's playing, and if we get word that there will be no minutes restriction. Right leg soreness is what has held him out. He did not participate in the shoot-around. So it would not be a surprise if he didn't play. But if we get word that he's going to, and he's not going to have a minutes limit, at 7.9 for Bradley Beal against the Orlando Magic, it's a really good play. San Antonio's at Boston. This will be a grind-down game. This will be a grind-down game. Lonnie Walker at 3.5 for San Antonio. Really sneaky play. I don't know if Lonnie Walker's on a lot of people's radar. But you look at the last 3 games, 21 minutes, 25 minutes, and 19 minutes at a 3.5 price tag, 25.9, 14.7, and 18.4. If Lonnie Walker is going to continue to get these kind of minutes, and Bryn Forbes is going to continue to start at the shooting guard spot, and Walker's going to come off the bench and play 20 minutes a game at 3.5, it's a really good value play. It's a really good value play. The rest of this game, to me, is kind of Dejounte Murray at 5.7, it's a decent matchup. Kemba Walker's going to return. They've removed the minutes limit, supposedly, from Dejounte Murray, but the minutes remain the same. Against Milwaukee on January 6th, his last game, he only played 25 minutes. So this minutes restriction that they supposedly removed, you go back to December 1st, and only twice has he played more than 30 minutes. So can he get you 6x? Probably. But, I mean, there's probably better spots. So this game as a whole, to me, I'm not real big on. I just, if Daniel Tice is ruled out, then obviously Enes Kanter becomes a really good play with Robert Williams ruled out and not playing. Taco Fall could be a guy that, maybe gets you 10 minutes tonight. Not worth playing. He hasn't been playing. But Enes Kanter is the guy to watch there if Daniel Tice is unable to go. And he's labeled questionable with knee soreness. Grant Williams is another guy that you could take a look at 3.6 if Tice is ruled out. He's been logging minutes. He played 25 minutes against Washington. Prior to that, he'd been getting between 16 and 25 minutes. So he could be, and here's the thing, right? Here's where you're able to be different, right? By paying attention to where the rotation is and who we talked about it with McConnell, right? We talked about it with Brogdon, McConnell to TJ Warren to Sabonis and how that kind of funneled, right? So here's the same type of situation. On the surface, yesterday with Giles, another good example. Bjelica was like 40% owned while Giles was like 18% owned. So clearly the sharp players had Giles. This is the same type of situation because if Tice is ruled out, everybody and their mother is going to just uniformly default and think Enes Kanter is going to be in a really good spot, which he will be. But Kanter at 5.7 on FanDuel or Grant Williams, and look, let's talk about minutes with Kanter. First, we talked about Grant Williams. On any given night, he's been playing between 16 minutes and 29 minutes, okay? That's in the month of December. I would say that 16 minutes is probably his floor, while 29 is his ceiling for minutes. You look at Kanter over the same period of time, and Kanter is playing about the same minutes. In fact, the high for Kanter over that stretch is 24 minutes. He's playing between 17 and 24 minutes. So you got two guys in similar spots. Somebody's going to get a boost in minutes today. Kanter at 5.3, Williams at 3.5. There's an $1,800 difference in their price. They're going to play probably the same amount of minutes. Cantor, though, does have the ability to get you a double-double in like 9 minutes. But you can be different. Or if you're building multiple lineups, you build one with Cantor, you build one with Williams. So Tice will be the cog in that wheel. If Tice is ruled out, that's kind of the funnel that goes through. Toronto's at Charlotte. Toronto is still a mess. Toronto's on a back-to-back. Van Vliet already ruled out. Norman Powell game time decision. Siakam's still out. Gasol is out. So you've got Ibaka playing the center spot. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson at 4.8 seems like a pretty decent play today. Steady between 25 and 29 minutes with a high of 37 over the last month. 4.8 price tag against a team that can't rebound in Charlotte. They just can't rebound. Hollis-Jefferson is very active on the boards. With Van Vliet out and Kyle Lowry's price at 8.2, I don't love the fact that it's a back-to-back, but they don't really have a choice. McCaw is the guy that could benefit in this situation. At the shooting guard position, he's 3.7. I told you guys yesterday, don't play Terrence Davis. He just doesn't bring enough to the table. It's a trap play. I think I followed up by saying he'll probably go off since I'm saying not to play him, but McCaw played 35 minutes last night. 35 minutes, 23.3 fantasy points. If you play Terrence Davis's price tag was 3.6. Terrence Davis, I think, had 5 fantasy points, 5.9, and played 8 minutes. Don't play this guy. He doesn't bring anything ancillary to the table. If he doesn't get hot and knock down some threes, he's not going to get you value. Where McCaw's proven. McCaw can play point guard. He can play the 2. He can play the 3. So at 3.7, McCaw to me is a guy with younger legs on a back-to-back. Probably plays 30 minutes tonight if Norman Powell is ruled out. Van Vliet already out. I think that McCaw at 3.7 is a very, very, very good play against Charlotte. On the flip side of this, on the Charlotte side, the guy I'm going to keep playing is Devontae Graham. Devontae Graham on FanDuel is listed as a shooting guard. He's playing the point guard position. He's having a great season. Really good season. You look at the last, week or so, 46 minutes is the high against Oklahoma City. He had 51.9 against Dallas 2 games ago. He has 3 40-point fantasy outings over the last kind of 7-game stretch. Devontae Graham is the guy that I would look to play here on the Charlotte side of things, and that's really where I'd keep it. There's not really anything else that I want to run to play. Ibaka in a good spot again because he's playing the center spot. This team can't rebound. They just can't rebound. Charlotte's terrible. Miami at Indiana, and here's an interesting guy. There's an interesting guy in Miami that I really like. And when you start to compare some of these guys that are priced where they're priced at today, there's one player that stands out to me that's being overlooked, and it's Kendrick Nunn at 4.3. I would much rather play Kendrick Nunn at 4.3 than some of these other guys. Brogdon's at 5,200, game time decision. If he does come back today, I don't think Brogdon sees a full complement of minutes. He's coming off a back injury. So it's not like he's been running around and been resting him with a back injury. So I think what that does with Brogdon coming back is I think that you're going to see Brogdon play between 20 and 25 minutes. You'll see Aaron Holiday play the regular 25 to 30 minutes he's been playing. TJ McConnell will take a hit in minutes. McConnell will go back to probably between 15 and 18 minutes. So it's not a situation that I really want to get into. I think people will look at Brogdon. Excuse me. I think people will look at Brogdon as a really good play because he's 5,200 and he's a starting point guard. But I'll have to see that there's going to be no minutes restriction before I can go to that spot. And I really like the other side of this. Point guards have been really good against the Pacers this year. It's been a good play to streamline point guards against the Pacers this year. And at 4,300, Kendrick Nunn is playing minutes, man. He's playing a lot of minutes. Minutes are steady. 27 to 33 minutes a night, a high of 41. a high of 42 over the last month. 51.2 fantasy point upside gives you a floor of probably 20. I mean, 20 at 4.3 is right in that 5x range. So Nunn at 4,300 is my favorite value point guard on the slate. There's a few of them at point guard today. Satoransky at 6,000. I think that Chris Dunn at 4,700 is a trap. I can't go there. I would much rather play Kendrick Nunn against the Pacers than Chris Dunn against the Pelicans. I just would. Dunn's far too inconsistent for me. Brogdon, like I said, 5,200. Ish Smith, 5,300. You don't know which one of the three are kind of going to go bonkers. Ish Smith went bonkers in the last game. Before that had been McCray. McCray still went nuts, I guess, in their last game against Boston. And you got Isaiah Thomas in there chomping away minutes as well. Fultz, his price is up from 51 to 58. We talked about Dejounte Murray at 5,700 with supposedly the minutes restriction removed. But, I mean, to me, if you're going to play a pay down spot for a point guard today, I think Nunn is in the best spot. 4,300 for a guy who's going to get you probably 30 minutes tonight in a marquee matchup against Indiana that's given up a ton of fantasy points and production to point guards with all kinds of other guys that look like they're in good value spots ahead of him on the board. I just think Nunn goes underlooked. I think you get him in the between 1% and 9% owned. I don't see the field just leaping to Kendrick Nunn today because there's not really an indicator saying play Kendrick Nunn. But it's one of these guys that's kind of lost in the shuffle. Sabonis is a game time decision. He did leave the game at the 7-minute mark on Monday against Charlotte. Still played 37 minutes. Did come back after he left the game. Had 49.9 fantasy points. Was my favorite player on Monday. We'll have to see if he's going to play. And here's a place to be different. Okay, here's a place to be different. On FanDuel specifically, Bam is listed as a power forward. And I talked about this yesterday when I said I love the little numbers they put for the OPRK or DVP, depending on the site, whatever the site calls it. Bam listed as power forward, and it says OPRK third. Okay? Third. When you look at the center position and the OPRK, Indiana's 29th against centers. Where does Bam play? He plays a center spot. People are going to see the third, and they're going to run away from Bam and not play him today. If Sabonis doesn't play, and it's Bam against Miles Turner, Bam is going to annihilate Miles Turner, who can't defend anybody. So Bam, a guy that I really like today, and will love today if Sabonis is going to be out. Taking a look around at some of the other sites and information that's out there, I don't see anybody on Bam. It's another guy I think you can get really low owned, but I like the pairing there of Kendrick Nunn and Bam quite a bit. Houston at Atlanta. James Harden is chalk. Period, point blank, end of story. I love pairing James Harden with Clint Capella. We just saw Jokic crush Atlanta. Atlanta's 30th against centers. And Clint Capella is 7,600. There's no Russell Westbrook today. This is going to be old school Harden Capella pick and roll. Really like this spot for Harden and Capella. I think people will flock to Trae Young because of the over-under in this game. The over-under in this one is 237. Houston is -8. It is the highest over-under on the board. There will be exposure in this game, so people will play Trae Young at 9,000. 9,000 is a good price for Trae Young with no Russell Westbrook. We know James Harden can't defend anybody. Austin Rivers at 3.5 is worth a look as a value spot, but I still like Nunn in that value spot better than I like Austin Rivers. 29 minutes is what he played the last time that Westbrook didn't play. Before that, he played 28. But there's a stack here that I really, really like, which is James Harden, Eric Gordon, and Clint Capella. Eric Gordon at 4.2. If this guy's going to play 29 minutes tonight at 4.2. Just lock him in. It's a really good spot for Eric Gordon. Another guy, when I look around, I don't see a lot of people talking about Eric Gordon today. But I've currently got him as my third small forward at 4.2. And just quickly, OG Anunoby was a dud yesterday in what I thought was a pretty popular spot where people paired Anunoby and Ariza. I think we paired Anunoby and Ariza in our cash line yesterday. And Anunoby dudded. I love to play players after they dud because they burn people, and then the next day people are like, oh, I'm not playing that guy again. And then the guy will go off. So Anunoby at 4.7 I have in my rankings as well. We'll get to those in a little bit. But I like the stack of Harden, Gordon, and Capella quite a bit. And you could pair, put Trae Young in that mix if you'd like and get a nice little game stack. Denver's at Dallas. Will Barton's been ruled out for personal reasons, so he's not playing today against Dallas. And who does that benefit? I really think that we talked about this already. And I don't know who they're going to start today and who they plan to start. But we talked about it the other day with Jokic. One of the reasons why Jokic has not had the consistency and the stretch of monster games he's had in the past is because Jamal Murray's really taken over as the focal point of the offense. He's the guy that runs the offense now. Jokic was more of the focal point last year and the year before when Jamal Murray was a rookie and he was young. Jamal Murray's experienced now. And that's eaten into some of Jokic's usage for sure. So now you take Will Barton off and you open up some more usage. And who's that going to go to? I think that one guy that's going to be the direct beneficiary of this is Jeremy Grant at 3.5. Michael Porter could start in this spot. If Michael Porter starts at 3.9, I think that he's an interesting play. I've been on Michael Porter all season. I've talked about Michael Porter at length. I think that Denver thinks highly of this kid. But Grant played 22 minutes yesterday. He's been playing between 15 and 30. He's minimum value. It's a good matchup. The guy can knock the three down. Dallas not the greatest perimeter defending team in the league. There's no Porzingis in there. They really don't have a true center. They run Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber out there. Kleber at 4.4, I don't think you can play him today. Hardaway's back for them. So, it's kind of a mess from Dallas' standpoint. Doncic is the focal point there for them. And Denver's really good defensively. So, to me, we've got to figure out the funnel here of where the usage and minutes are going to go for Denver without Barton. Gary Harris could see a little bit of a tick up. Malik Beasley could see a little bit of a tick up. But the two guys to watch, in my opinion, are Michael Porter and Jeremy Grant. And I would lead towards Jeremy Grant for one reason. Sometimes there's a pattern with a player and it doesn't mean anything. And sometimes it's just the way they're playing a guy. And it looks like they're giving Porter kind of on again, off again type of rotation with his minutes. He played 18 on December 28th. He played 26 on December 29th. He played 10 on December 31st. 22 on January 2nd. 12 on January 4th. And 20 on January 6th. You can see the pattern. Does he start here? Hey, man, if he starts, he can score 25 points. The kid's the real deal. The problem with him, though, is that you look at January 2nd, 22 minutes, 25 points, only 5 rebounds and 1 assist. He had 31.5 fantasy points. The 31.5 crushes value, but what you circle and look at here is To get 31.5 fantasy points, he had to score 25 points. You look at December 29th. He played 26 minutes. He had 27.7 fantasy points. He had to score 19 points to get the 27 fantasy points. So he's not filling up the stat sheet in other categories. So Jeremy Grant, to me, could be a really good play at 3.5. And if he's going to start, I think he'd be default chalk, to be honest with you. If they say Jeremy Grant's going to start today, I think he'd be default chalk. I mean, he doesn't need to only score to fill up the stat sheet. But I like both of them. And I think if one of those guys is going to start, then I think both those guys are in good spots. You give the edge to the guy that starts. Chicago's at New Orleans. I think there'll be a lot of ownership in this game. Derek Favors the first piece to look at. 6,900 on FanDuel. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double doubles in his last 8 games. He's gotten you at least 28.5 fantasy points in that stretch. His price is now all the way up to 6,900. I'm a little worried about the minutes here, but I don't think against Chicago he needs to get 35 minutes. I think at 25 to 29 minutes he could probably get you another double-double, but is it enough to get you 6x? You need 42 fantasy points out of him. He's only shown the ability to go above 40 once, and that was against Denver on Christmas, where he got 44.6. He had 8 assists in that game. So, I don't know he's going to get you 8 assists tonight against the Bulls. Drew Holiday's been ruled out, and I think that just like the other night with Drew Holiday out, I went to Ingram and Etuan Moore, and I think you go right back to that spot. I think that the usage goes through Ingram. I think Etuan Moore has a chance to score, and because of those two guys, the usage, I don't think Favors is going to get you 8 assists, 9 assists to get you that over the hump of getting you the 42 that he needs to get you to go 6x tonight. Ingram can get you 54 on any given night. And Etuan Moore, you need 25 fantasy points out of him to reach value. He got you 25 the other night with Holiday out. I'm not big on the Bulls. If I was going to play any of them, I would play Satoransky. But do I like Satoransky at 6,000 more than I like Kendrick Nunn at 4,300? I don't. Zach LaVine's the focal point here. Really like him again tonight. 8.4 for LaVine on FanDuel. LaVine, we know the ability he has. I just think that Brandon Ingram could cause this guy some trouble. Brandon Ingram, a very long defender. And if that's the matchup with it's LaVine and Brandon Ingram, I think LaVine loses out on that a little bit. Pay attention to Lauri Markkanen. If he's going to be out today, obviously Thaddeus Young in a really good spot. Daniel Gafford, also a game-time decision, who's been getting some run for them as well. And, Wendell Carter already ruled out of this one. So one thing that I'm going to throw out there today, if you're playing a bunch of lineups, get a little bit of exposure to Jackson Hayes. He's a minimum value. Watching the game the other night, the Pelican broadcasters were talking about how the coaching staff feels that the energy that team plays with comes from Jackson Hayes. That he's kind of the lifeblood of that team. And that they're looking to get him more opportunity down the stretch here before we get to the All-Star break. That they want to give him more opportunity, get him more minutes, etc. If he's going to play 20 minutes plus at 3.5, I mean, he's got a ton of ability. You've seen him in other spots when Favors was out and Hayes was starting. So Hayes is a guy to keep an eye on tonight and moving forward. The Knicks on a back-to-back going into Utah, this is like a full fade, to be honest with you. Rudy Gobert, Mitchell Robinson's game-time decision. The Knicks, like I said, on a back-to-back. You don't know what the guard rotation is going to be for the Knicks. You don't know if RJ Barrett is going to show up and when he's going to show up. The small forward position is a mess for them. Marcus Morris, a game-time decision. Kevin Knox, a game-time decision. Julius Randle's already been ruled out. Do you want to just roll Taj Gibson out there? I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with Mitchell Robinson. But there's an opportunity to play another guy at a super cheap price tag who we know has all kinds of ability and upside, and that's Bobby Portis. Portis, when he gets minutes, Portis puts up production. Period. He played 6 minutes last night, almost like it was planned that they were going to be short in the rotation tonight. But if Mitchell Robinson's ruled out, Julius Randle's already out, Taj Gibson's not going to play a ton of minutes for them. He's just not. He can get you value, though, if he's going to play 18 to 20 minutes at 3.5. He can definitely get you value, but I don't like him in the spot against Rudy Gobert and Royce O'Neal and the bigs of Utah. But Utah I'm going to stay away from because I think this game could blow out. But, Reggie Bullock is a guy I might look at. Damian Dotson, a guy I might look at if I'm looking to save salary. Because if the game blows out, Damian Dotson will get run. Reggie Bullock will get run. These guys will get some run. But other than that, this is a kind of a stay-away spot for me. Dennis Smith Jr., another guy, game time decision. I mean, it's like this whole team's a game time decision. They're a huge underdog. Utah's minus 12.5 here. And there's two spots I don't like to play players from when they're on a back-to-back going in there. The first one is Denver. Do not ever play players if they're on the second end of a back-to-back going into Denver. Road teams on the second end of a back-to-back going into Denver are like 1-80. Teams don't play. If they go to altitude on the second half of back-to-back, they don't play well. Utah is not Denver as far as altitude goes, but it's definitely not at sea level either. So I just don't, going on a back-to-back, a bunch of game-time decisions. If it funnels out a little bit better with these game-time decisions prior to lock, then there's some stuff to look at. Maybe ask some questions to Discord, and I'll give you a better idea of where I'm at on that. Last game of the night, Milwaukee at Golden State. No George Hill. No D'Angelo Russell. Giannis, a game-time decision. He's nursing a sore back. He's probable. I just don't know. I mean, do you play Giannis here? There's enough value on the board definitely to play Giannis and Harden in the lineup. But, I mean, is the game going to stay close enough long enough for Giannis to smash value? You need 68.4 fantasy points on FanDuel out of him. He hasn't hit 68.4 fantasy points. The closest he's been to that in the last month. November 25th, he had 81.8. And then December 9th, he had 66. So, I mean, we know the upside's there. He can get you 55 to 60. But can he get you, can he get you 70 tonight? And who has a better probability of getting you 70 tonight? Harden against Atlanta without Westbrook? The assist numbers will be back for Harden tonight because he's not going to be splitting assist numbers with Westbrook. Or Giannis against Golden State. I definitely think you need some piece of exposure here in this last game of the night. Brook Lopez, I think, is interesting at 5,100. Late night play. I think Draymond Green at 5,700 is interesting. Late night play. Alec Burks at 5,700. Not really intrigued by that. The news here, though, is that Marquise Chris was waived by the Warriors. So that leads me to believe that Omari Spellman is going to continue to get run here. I just think, and we talked about this on Monday, the Warriors and their role players are really difficult to predict, even when they're full strength. I chose to go with Spellman over Chris. Chris didn't get very much run. Spellman did. And Marquise Chris has been waived. Eric Pascal and Spellman are the same exact price tag. And there's some extra minutes to be eaten up here. But the Warriors are full of wing players. I mean, they're full of wing. It's a bunch of wings. Cauley Stein's not a guy I'm going to look to target tonight. 5,000. I'd rather play Brook Lopez because he gives me the 3-point shot upside. And the number one play in this spot, in this game, is Eric Bledsoe at 5,900. He's just way too cheap. It's too cheap for Bledsoe. It's just too cheap. So from a tournament standpoint, you look at the sites. I think the best tournament of the night is the $150 entry fee. It's filling up quick, but I definitely think this is a good tournament. I've got right now 10 entries in it. May grab a couple more. I'm not, stick to the plan, man. Stick to the plan. Play the cash game lineup and play the entry maxes and single entry tournaments. It's where it's at. 3-man leagues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're not doing it correctly, you want to play cash game lineups and play our lineup in all your cash game entries. Don't mix it up and play multiple cash game lineups. That's the wrong way to do it. You're out leveraging yourself. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, be cool, keep it cashing. Peace out.